just last week, Ontario Premier Doug Ford decided to cut the size of City Council by almost half. And oh, the cries of outrage from the usual suspects. They reverberated throughout the mean streets of Hogtown. But that's not the case with my next guest. Giorgio Mammoliti, the councillor for Ward 7, actually welcomes the changes. And speaking of change, if re-elected, he has a bold new plan to bring about relief to the troubled neighborhood of Jane Finch. Welcome to the Ezra Event Show, Giorgio.
Thank you so much for having me. And it's going to be Ward 7 and Ward 8 after this election.
Oh, that's right, because they're amalgamating it. That's right. Now, Giorgio, I think it would be, to a lot of the viewers out there, somewhat counterintuitive that anyone on council, including yourself, would support a reduction of almost 50% of council seats. But you actually do support Premier Ford's move.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful. I mean, if he were here right now, I'd give him a big hug. Because at the end of the day, he's doing the right thing. He's feeling the public out. It's what they want. It's saving taxpayers' dollars, not only on the council floor, but also within the bureaucracy itself, because we have less reports. We don't, we drive the bureaucrats nuts with reports and that sort of thing. So yeah. I think it's a good thing because it's going to save a ton of money in the end, in the long run, and we get to make decisions faster and better. And you know what I like about this move the best, David? The suburbs finally get represented.
Yes.
And I've been harping on this, and people have been laughing at me for so long, but finally we're going to have a say. And those long-awaited transfer payments for little things like getting our parks cleaned and grass cut and that sort of thing are finally going to make their way up to the suburbs.
Indeed. Now, Giorgio, what do you make of the outcry by the usual suspects on the left that this was undemocratic, there was no consultation, this was never talked about during Doug Ford's election campaign, and I'm sure there's some other things. Yes, of course, a personal vendetta against Mayor Tory, who Doug Ford ran against 4 years ago. Does any of that hold water?
Hogwash. First of all, Doug, his brother, myself, a whole slew of us have been talking about this for years. And even before they came onto the picture, guys like me after amalgamation were saying the same thing. It's too big. We need to cut ourselves in half because it's unmanageable. We can't keep doing this to the taxpayer. And so it got heard with the Fords, for sure, well before this. And it's been an ongoing conversation in elections. It's been an ongoing conversation outside of elections. So it's not a surprise to anybody. The people that are complaining are the same people, and I might add, a bunch of lefty New Democrats, socialists, communists, whatever you want to call them. They're the ones that didn't have a problem cutting the police budget and the police by 800 officers, did they? They didn't have that problem when they voted in cutting out those jobs or cutting out some of those manufacturing jobs because they didn't like what people manufacture, right? They didn't hear the plight of all those families when they came to council. They voted against those jobs. All of a sudden, their jobs are in jeopardy, and now we're hearing a cry from them.
So this is really about the NDP power base of downtown Toronto being eroded. And one of the latest developments at the 11th hour, you had the the former city planner, Jennifer Keesmaat, a darling of the left, throw her hat into the ring. I heard they courted Mike Layton and even David Miller to be a challenge. What do you think of her arrival into the mayoralty race, Giorgio? And do you think, I'm thinking Mayor Tory must be feeling backstabbed right now because he has caved to almost every left-wing demand on council these last 4 years, and now he's thrown under the bus. So what are your observations?
Well, he didn't listen to me to a large degree because I told him right from the start, you're a conservative, don't cater to a lot of things and he did it, I think, for primarily political reasons. I think we can all read through that, right? That kind of thing. And now he's stuck because he has catered to them, anticipating that there's going to be another 47 councillors on the council floor. And I think this is going to benefit him because now he might be able to become his real self, that right-leaning guy, that center right-leaning guy that he always has been. I told him the other day, I think this is actually good for him. He's going to have more powers as the mayor. He'll be able to perhaps talk a little more about what he wants to do in the next term. And if he plays his cards right, he needs just a few people to support him and he'll get his agenda through. It's better for him.
And I know we're an eternity away in political timelines, Giorgio, from October 22nd, Election Day. But what do you see shaking down in terms of the mayoralty race? I mean, we have Keesmaat, who is, admittedly a serious contender, Blaine Lastman as well. I'm not sure what his political CV is all about, but I mean, how do you see it playing out?
Well, it's between the two of them, and I believe that.
Keys,
Left
and Tory.
versus right, and Tory's got to come out with his real self, I think, in this election. And there is no red carpet for Keys Matt in the suburbs. And so that, I mean, to make that really clear, that a guy like me is not going to be supporting a very left-leaning individual who, by the way, was very instrumental in bringing this whole city through this congestion that we've been with the bicycle lanes and that whole array of mismanagement on bike lanes and how we're putting them everywhere,
and
right?
The King Street pilot project, banning cars, right?
All of it, even the shift on subways and LRTs, you know, it has a lot to do with her when she was at the helm. So I know what she's about. She's not good for us. Good-looking lady, for sure. And Tory's a good-looking man. But at the end of the day, we're not going to vote for people that are good-looking, are we? If that were the case, I'd be the mayor today.
I'm glad in the Me Too era you're not playing any favorites, Giorgio.
At the end of the day, look at their platform and look what they stand for. They're not going to be good. At least she's not going to be good for the suburbs, in my opinion.
Yeah. And speaking of the suburbs, if we can call Jane Finch suburbs, you know, as I said in the beginning, Giorgio, you have a vision for this community. I mean, my heart breaks when I think of Jane Finch. There's a disproportionate amount of crime there. You had Minister Tabolo 2 weeks ago do a ride-along in a police cruiser in the wee hours of the night. He was actually condemned as a racist by Andrea Horwath, the leader of the provincial NDP, and for stigmatizing a community. And yet this is a guy at 1 a.m. that was visiting a known crack house.
Reacting to a problem.
Yeah, and
God forbid.
You know, so a couple of things. I know you have a plan you want to talk to about Jane Finch, but what do you make, Giorgio, of this tone that everything is through a lens of racism, even a minister wearing a bulletproof vest for a ride-along, for goodness sakes?
He's reacting to an issue, which is one of the largest issues we've had in the city for a long time, and those are the gangbangers in the city that aren't afraid of anybody and are going to kill people on the streets and anybody else around them. Yeah. So he was reacting to that. And the policy, take it from a guy who's gone on these rides for 28 years, they will not let you go on these midnight runs, these 2 o'clock runs, to see the worst parts of the city unless you wear that vest.
Or even the good parts of the city.
You're not going to be able to go.
Isn't that true?
Right? Yeah. So, well, you know, even Mayor Tory said, well, I never wore a vest. Well, yeah, but you don't need to wear a vest if you're going to go with some traffic cops, right? Like, you know, to look at with the congestion or the problems with traffic. You are going to need a vest if you're going to go to 2 o'clock in the morning and look at some of the crack houses and how they're the part of the problem in TCHC.
And so TCHC, for those outside Toronto, that's Toronto Community Housing Corporation.
Housing, yeah.
And of course, this is taxpayer subsidized social housing that, in addition to people that need this assistance, Giorgio, and I don't think anyone is begrudging that, it is factual that there are thugs, there are drug dealers, gangbangers living here, and they're shaking down residents there, most of them being seniors. And yet, why can't we kick these thugs out of taxpayer-funded, subsidized housing?
We attempted, through the mayor, Mayor Tory, just a couple of years ago, actually, to try and get to the Wynne government to change the legislation to allow TCHC to be able to evict problem tenants.
Yes.
They said no. They said they're not going to do it. And so what we've learned, which is factual...
And what was the ostensible policy reason on that? That's what I don't understand.
I'm going to get to that because 1%... Now, first of all, let me say it this way. 4% of TCHC tenants make up the population of Toronto.
Okay.
They're in every part of the city of Toronto, these units. 1% of their population are a big problem to not only the residents in TCHC, but the much larger communities. What I say by that is they're harboring, literally, all of these killers. They're harboring the drug dealers. They know they are, and they can't do anything about it because the courts won't let them evict. They call it the last place for these people to go. So if they evict, there's nowhere else for these people to go. I see it like spraying down a building full of cockroaches. The cockroaches are just going to scatter, right? Yeah. So start evicting them.
Yes.
Let them scatter because their particular strength is when they're all together in a community like Jane and Finch.
Yeah.
So my approach is going to be scatter them, evict them, get them out of Jane and Finch completely. And I also have a further one, David. I think we need to knock the buildings down completely and build into a mix. It's not fair to those residents to be segregated. They have been for the last 60 years. It's no wonder our little kids in those communities are growing up angry and killing people. We need them to mingle with the rest of society. So I want to knock down all of the social housing in Jane and Finch, put a plan in place, and by the way, I've already done it. I'm the guy who came up with the affordable housing plan at City of Toronto that started the Regent Park movement.
Right, which is considered a great success, where it was a similar, maybe you call it ghettoized area of the city, but it was raised and now it's a mixed housing development,
right.
rich and
bring in
poor.
the private sector. So the private sector helped us build it. TCHC became the developer, but it was a good mix, changing the community. I'm doing it right now at Firgrove. We've already knocked down half of the units of Firgrove, okay? And the residents in the back, those ratepayers that have always had concerns about the crime that comes out of the social problems, are saying, you've gotten rid of a lot of our problems here now. So I want to do it with Driftwood. I want to do it on Shepherd Avenue. I want to do it on the Islington core, where we just got a number of shootings lately. Duncan Woods, Satterley, all those little pockets. I want to knock them down, rebuild them as a mix, and get rid of the problem once and for all by being able to evict these bad people.
Well, Giorgio, we're almost at a racetrack. I'll give you the last word. You've got a election slogan, I understand, that you're going to be using.
Oh, gosh. I've always kept it real, always. And that's gotten me into trouble, because sometimes when you keep things real, people don't want to hear it. This election is going to be about keeping it real, and that's what I plan on using.
Well, Giorgio, thank you so much for dropping by the Ezra Levant Show. And there you have it, folks. Listen, the province went right in June. Maybe in October, the City of Toronto is going to take a right-hand turn. Time will tell.
That's an excerpt from my daily TV show, The Ezra Levant Show. Normally it's behind a paywall, but I thought you'd like this video, so we put it on YouTube. If you want to subscribe to watch the daily show every day, including always 2 interviews a day, and I read my hate mail, just click on this screen and become a premium member.